142 days. It's how long it's been since I quit my safe six-figure marketing career to chase this dream of turning fishing into a living. And some days, they've been incredible. Others, not so much. But the thing I think about the most, it's the future of what this could become. The wins, the opportunities, and building something I've wanted to for basically my entire life. Because without this one thing, nothing's gonna happen. And that one little thing, it's a plan. And in that last 142 days, I've had people ask me all kinds of things. How'd you do this? Should I do it? Are you rich? Is your wife rich? The honest answer, this isn't luck. It's a decade of grinding, building up my skill set, experience, time, energy, and building a plan so that I don't quit when things get tough. If you want to fish more, work less, and not blow up your family or your finances while doing it, this episode's definitely for you. This is episode 7 of Fishing for a Living, and you're going to want to stick around till the end because there's one part of this plan that I genuinely am scared to think about. And it's the thing that could make or break this entire journey. I was watching a Casey Neistat vlog the other day, and he said something that just haven't been able to get out of my head. He said, you spend your 20s figuring it out, your 30s doing it, and your 40s enjoying it. And that hit because I've spent the last decade just trying to figure it out. Back in 2015, I jumped ship from working on a motor yacht in California. And I got my first shot in marketing. From there, I worked my way up, mostly in the outdoor industry, helping brands grow, scale, and make money doing what they love, chasing their own dream. And up until August of 2025, I was doing that for other people, helping them chase their version of freedom. But that entire time, I was watching, following the patterns, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't. Because at this point in my life, I've seen enough gurus tell you, just keep posting consistently. Just post a 7-second reel with a trending audio and a hook over top of it. Or my favorite, buy my course. That advice, it's about as good as sitting on the same dead stretch of water when you could just go somewhere else and catch fish that are actually biting. In fishing, we all know, if there's no fish there, you just move. Or you change baits, you change angles, and you use every tool in your tackle box, in your brain that you've got. And that's exactly what this episode is about. I'm not guessing, I'm not just winging it, I'm using every single thing that I've used over the last 10 years and putting that same energy and more into something that I own now. And this next part is where the whole plan comes together, because I'm telling you, it didn't just show up overnight. It's years of experience finally pointed in a direction that I control. So this is my full 2026 plan right here. 4 quarters, 1 goal, build income without killing my freedom. And it starts like this. Q1 is a foundation and income builder. It's about building an income floor so nothing else collapses. Q2, it's about leverage and scale. Now that there's foundation, this is where I turn my attention into real opportunities. Q3, it's about compounding. This is where the work that I've already done starts to stick, and it stacks up. And Q4, it's about optimization, figuring out what worked, what didn't, and doubling down so I can end this year on a high note. All right, before I walk you through the full gambit of the quarters and all the details that are within, I've got to explain to you how I'm thinking about this whole thing. This board, it's not about staying busy, it's about sequencing things. I've broken this year into 4 quarters, as most people should know, business people. It's Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And it's not because life fits neatly into each little quarter, but because each phase of the quarter has its own job. All right, so here's a quick deep dive on each quarter. As I mentioned, Q1 is about foundation and building an income floor. It's the most important quarter of the year. And if Q1 it doesn't work, everything else for the rest of the year, it's going to be a lot more stressful. And instead of having momentum, stress will likely happen. So the entire focus of Q1 is figuring out how to have some semblance of stability. And this is where the most important piece of my personal plan gets locked in, and that's consulting. That's where systems get simple. It's where I stop relying on just a hope and a dream. And my non-negotiable in Q1 is building that predictable income floor. So I'm not making emotional decisions throughout the rest of the year. And what those could look like are brand deals that I don't truly feel confident about. It could be working with someone that I don't necessarily want to, or picking up a side gig so that I can bring in some income. I don't want that to happen. And I don't have a plan B of any of that happening. I'm focused on Q1 being the quarter where everything gets simpler throughout the year. Quarter one is something I've seen a lot of creators skip the way that I've structured it. They try to grow fast and they burn out because they skip this part. And that's becoming safe, or at least becoming confident. And once that pressure comes off with a successful Q1, everything changes, and that's where the next quarter is going to come in. So within each of these quarters, we have broken down by brand tasks, which in Q1, they'll look different than Q2. Outbound sales, so that could be for consulting, for brand deals, for content deals and retainers. We've got revenue tasks. That could be income, building out the current supply, invoicing, ensuring that all of my contract work is dialed in, all of my retainer contracts, all of my consulting contracts, my content tasks. So as you guys know, we've got Fishing for a Living coming out every week. We've got a couple of different fishing YouTube series for next year, and we've got a couple other things happening. Some marketing tasks. We've got the current supply as its own individual line item, and then we got business tasks. These are things that a lot of people forget about. That's things like creating a P&L, which is a profit and loss statement that you can check in on every week, getting in tuned with a good CPA, a simple bookkeeping system. I've got tons of receipts from this past 4 months that probably shouldn't have had. I need to get a really good recording system for all of my receipts. But that's kind of how Q1 and all of the quarters are broken down from a category perspective. And then Q2. Q1's built out pretty well. Q2, on the other hand, we're still building. But at this point, we're talking about leverage. If everything happens in Q1 the way it's supposed to, at this point, I'm not trying to do more. I'm trying to package what already exists. And this is where my content, as long as we grow the way that we're supposed to, build the relationships the way that we're supposed to, work with the right people, that's where the content that I'm creating on a daily basis for myself and for the brands that I'm working with, they turn into real assets that can be used even more, even further. And within that, there's a couple of big things that I really have to nail. Those are sponsor decks for different content series. They're the brand relationships, getting nailed down and expanding on those, and having offers that when I go out to a brand or I go out to whoever it is, creators that I want to help build their own platforms, I've got to have clean offers. So instead of one-off random brand deals that are just, post and call it a day, I'm looking for retainers. I'm looking for long-term partnerships with brands that I believe in, and that's where things really start to make sense. And in fishing terms, you could kind of put this as like, this is when you stop experimenting and start dialing in a pattern. For me, that was glide bait fishing. And, I was just randomly throwing glide baits, didn't know how to throw them. And I had one day where everything stuck, and I was able to really just hone in after that. I started to get confident. I started to try new things. And from there, everything has gotten so much better because I experimented and then I started really dialing in that pattern. So Q2 kind of looks like that. And if Q2, I do it the right way, Q3 is going to get really interesting, and we're going to see a serious ramp up, both in revenue, a ramp down in stress, ideally, and a lot more clean workflow. On the other hand, Q3, it's about compounding. And this is where that work that I've done in the past Q1, Q2, the past 2 quarters, it starts paying me back big time. There are a lot of things that I'm working on that will build credibility, will build trust. Some things that I'm working on that are SEO related that over time, they'll start to create money for me while I'm sleeping, things like that. Q3 is definitely a quarter where a lot of that stuff will start to compound on top of itself, and I'll start to sleep at night and the money will come in while I'm sleeping. So simply what that looks like is the evergreen content that I'm creating, the affiliate links that I'm posting about, whether it's on thecurrentdigital.com or it's on my Instagram or anywhere that I'm talking about affiliate marketing. That's when those things in my sleep start making me money. The YouTube videos that keep working even when I'm not filming, those really high production value, the ones that take me a lot of time, a lot of planning, the execution is long term. That's when those things, they start to gain views while I'm sleeping. So in essence, this is the quarter where all the effort from Q1, Q2, it starts stacking. Instead of having to reset every week, trying to go outbound to new brands, trying to find new audiences, so on and so forth, Q3 is really where everything seriously starts to compound. And by no means does this mean I'm going to stop working. It just means that I get to work smarter and not harder, ideally. This is when things I get to potentially step back, spend a little more time away from work, maybe a little more time on the water, enjoying fishing. This is part of the plan, but 2 to 3 days minimum is what I want to be fishing next year. And ideally, only one of those days might be on the weekend because it's likely a tournament day. But the weekdays are really where I'm going to fulfill my fishing time. So if we're looking at a positive Q3, we've compounded over the last 3 quarters. And then Q4, we're going to start capitalizing. So in Q4, we're really looking at not reinventing the wheel. It's about slowing down and asking myself what has worked for Q1, Q2, and Q3. So what content worked best? What affiliate marketing articles or what formats or what partners or what merch and apparel and gear and what revenue streams? Which ones worked best? So that now in Q4, we're talking about October, November, December. This is where I double down on the best stuff and I cut off the other things. It's really like a full year in review, Q1 through Q3, so that I can say, let's really hammer down. Let's make that money when people are spending. And in general, the goal isn't necessarily to squeeze myself dry. It's to finish the year proud and with an idea that, holy crap, I met my goals, whether that's revenue or follower targets or view targets or brand deals or merch line, or all of these things are successful, or at least to the point where I feel proud of them and not burnt out. That's the important point. Like, I want to be able to pursue this passion day and night, and I enjoy every second of it. But right now I'm working 70 to 80 hours a week. I'm waking up early, staying up until the middle of the night, doing everything I can to make this work. But over time, systems and knowing what does and what doesn't work, that is going to help me optimize my time and do less with more. And here's the big takeaway. So this is more of my planning sheet. These are the marks that I have to hit. What this is called is essentially a Kanban board. So all of these notes are in red because they haven't started. The yellow notes are in progress. So whenever I start something, one of the notes will change to yellow, and green is when it's done. So it's kind of a way that I can project manage myself. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm not going to under deliver. I know what is getting done and what's not getting done. But the big takeaway here is I'm not trying to win every single quarter. I'm trying to give each quarter a job that I can actually do. It's super important that I don't overdo it and burn myself out in Q1 or, get to Q2 and I'm super far behind, because that's how I can avoid panic, which if I get panic, anxious, stressed, there's a chance that I could quit. And I don't want to get myself in that situation. And that's how I avoid just chasing these shiny objects of, ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at that. I don't want to do that. And it's how this business eventually becomes sustainable. And I get to finally step back someday a little bit and really dive into what I really enjoy, and that's going fishing. This is not all about going fishing. Yes, it's called fishing for a living. And yes, I quit my 9-to-5 to chase this dream, but I gotta keep the lights on. And over here on this left side, I've got two things broken down. So there's platforms and channels. As you guys know, I'm on Instagram, TikTok. I've got LinkedIn, my personal account, the current account, my business account. I've got Facebook, YouTube, Threads, Spotify, and Apple for my podcasts, and then email and SMS is something I'm diving into next year. Each of these has a target from a growth perspective. It has a revenue path where I expect to make money from each of these channels. There's a target audience behind it, and it has a primary role for the current as a business. And beyond that, these are my different revenue categories. So if you guys have been following along with the channel for a while, you know that I have a couple of different revenue categories. I am not looking to just be a creator. That's not me. Maybe one day that might happen, but I am realistic. I know how this works. I've been in this industry for 10 years. I know that I'm not big enough and I'm not credible enough. I don't have a big enough audience and following to just make money off of brand deals and sponsors. But what I do have is a skill set and knowledge that I can offer to other brands and other creators. So line item 1 for me in a revenue category is consulting. The second line is brand deals and sponsors. The third is UGC and content retainers. Hopefully you guys know what those are. If you're interested in fishing for a living or interested in becoming a creator, you better get on top of UGC. Merch and gear, the current supply, has its own line item. Affiliate revenue, its own line item. And ad revenue on Instagram and YouTube. So as you'll see, that's kind of how I work with each of these. And this whole platform is called Miro. This is how I plan everything. As you'll see, this is my game plan table. And I've got a bunch of other ones for last year, for my website, for product launches, for content series, for inspiration, so on and so forth. These things are incredibly helpful for me. And so now that you understand the structure of how I'm working in a project management perspective or a business planning perspective, the next question, it's obvious. How do I turn this into making actual money? And that's where we talk more in depth about revenue. All right. Now we got to talk about the kind of uncomfortable part, and that's money. I'm not sharing this to flex, and I'm definitely not sharing this to sell you on a dream, because this is my dream. I'm sharing it because if this doesn't make financial sense, none of the rest of this whole thing even matters. And here was the first thing that I had to get straight. Platforms, they're not going to pay you. Instagram, I'm not going to make money from Instagram. Businesses do. So instead of asking, how much money will Instagram make me? I started asking, what businesses am I actually building? And that shift changed the entire way of thinking for me. So you're probably going to see this number and think this guy is insane. my stretch goal for this year, it is $142,000. Yep, $142,000. And that number, it's not random. It's not perfect. And by no means is that number guaranteed, but it's intentional. It's diversified across my business. There's no single or one revenue stream that carries this whole entire thing. There are some that are weighted higher than others, but there is not a single stream of revenue that's going to carry me throughout the entire year. And that's what you call a diversified platform or a diversified business. And when I think about revenue, I think about it in three different buckets. There's income that buys me stability. There's income that creates leverage. And there's income that compounds over time. So if I only focus on one of these things, this whole damn plan, it's gonna break. At each of the core of these revenue categories, as we talked through earlier, they have a different bucket. They're all in different buckets. So first off, there's consulting. So my decade of experience I'm offering to brands and to creators. And it's the foundation of this plan. It's where I expect to make the most money and have essentially my income floor. So Q1 of 2026 will be focused on landing those retainers, those consulting clients, and it'll break down mostly from a brand perspective, but I will offer some creator consulting as well. So if you're interested in something like that, if you're a creator looking to make a side hustle or just make money from fishing, that's what I'll be offering is a path to doing that, to help other people do it. That'll be a very small piece of the consulting income. Really, I'm going to enjoy doing that. I think helping other people is something that I really like to do, especially people that have a dream similar to mine. I have seen a lot of people do this over the past 10 years. I'm doing it myself, so I'll be offering my brain to other people and to other brands. And ideally with the retainers, so for brands, these will only be retainers, with other brands, there's consulting. And I'm not going to be doing one-off projects with these brands. I'll be doing retainers. So what that means is I will be their point of contact for social media for all of a quarter or all of a year. We'll sign a contract, and that will be income that I earn every single month like clockwork, similar to just a 9-to-5 paycheck. And I'm not trying to scale this part forever. I'm using it to buy time and reduce pressure because I know how to do this marketing thing. I've been trusted by some of the biggest brands in the world for the past 10 years to run their marketing. So I'm going to offer my brain, my skills, my experience to other brands. And there's a big goal that I've got to hit. So you'll see here I break down each of the quarters by a target from a revenue perspective. My expectation is that by the end of February, I need to be bringing home $4,000 a month at minimum just from consulting. Ideally, the stretch goal is to have $15,000 in my bank account from consulting after Q1. That is my stretch goal. That breaks down into only $5,000 a month from consulting. And once that floor exists, that's been my 6-month plan since I started this thing. I have milestones that I have to hit from a revenue perspective to prove that this is possible. And if I can hit that Q1 target from a consulting perspective, that $15,000 of revenue in 3 months, that's where my floor is. And everything from there, it gets more strategic. So next on the list, we've got brand deals and sponsors. This is not something that I expect to make a ton of money early on from. I know that I don't have the biggest following. I'm close to 10,000 on Instagram, barely even over 1,000 on YouTube. It's like 1,200 something. TikTok is at like almost 4,000. My full community is around 18,000. It's good. It's not the best. I'm not going to be signing these brand deals that are $10,000 a pop, but that's a leverage layer. As you'll see, ideally these will start to ramp up by Q4. My expectation is that I will start working with brands and building sponsorships that will help me to essentially turn them into consulting gigs of sorts. I have a set number of posts that I need to work on with them. I have to go to trade shows. I have to build content series around them, feature them in all of my content. That is the expectation. And by the end of the year, that is something I plan to ramp up a ton. And ideally, I'm putting this at a low target for Q1 because I don't want random one-offs. I don't want to work with brands that I don't trust their product. I don't want to push to you guys these willy-nilly so-so fishing rods or fishing reels that I don't have any trust in. So this line item is scaling over time. You'll see there's not a big jump between Q2 and Q3. There is a jump in Q1, but throughout the year, the big jump will be in Q4. My expectation is that a lot of brands are going to need influencers or creators or the full gambit of partners during the holiday season. It's pretty normal. I've seen it in my career. I've had to do it in my career, and brands have to spend money that they have accounted for by the end of the year. You'd be surprised, but a lot of people that are managing brands, at the end of the year, they find that they have more money available than they expected, and they've got to make sure that they spend it, because if they don't, they're not getting it back next year. So this category ramps throughout the year, and that's because trust compounds over time. And my audience will be building. I will have more trust, credibility with my audience, and inherently more trust and credibility with brands that want to work with me. And if I pace myself lower earlier, so you'll see Q1's target's only $5,000. That's, it's a little more than $1,500 per month that I'm expecting. It is a me problem. It's not a market problem. And oftentimes Q1 is a little harder than all of the other months, especially in the fishing industry. But I think something that you'll see interesting about my platform and what I'll be doing from a brand deal and sponsor perspective is, I'm not going to say that I'm the only one that knows this or does this, but I know that it's hard to get endemic deals. And what endemic means is fishing specific brands to sponsor me or to pay me to market their brand. What I do know as well is that non-endemic brands that could be adjacent to fishing or adjacent to my lifestyle, they're just not fishing focused, are the ones that I could build a bigger relationship with, especially from an income perspective. So again, brand deals alone, it's not going to build me a durable business quite yet, but potentially in 2027, that could be my full-time role. Third on the list, that's going to be UGC and content retainers. If you guys don't know what UGC is, that's user-generated content. And I've been doing this for a year and a half, almost 2 years now, where all I have to do is create content for other brands. They don't need my platform. They don't need me as a person other than my storytelling skills, my videography skills, my social media skills to create a piece of content, deliver it to them so they can use it how they please, whether that be organically on their social media, through paid media, through on their website, so on and so forth. They're going to use the content that I create for them on their platforms. They won't need my platform. And that kind of parlays into content retainers as well. I have been shooting photography, videography on a high scale for the past 10 years, pretty much my whole marketing career. It's actually how I got into marketing. So content retainer, I would more so look at as a professional level, whereas UGC, I'm just going to be picking up my phone and shooting a video and delivering it to a partner or a brand. Content retainers, I'll be picking up a bigger camera and doing some higher level brand work. So at the end of the day, these aren't necessarily like big flashy deals, and they're not going to bring in a ton of money. And you might even be able to mix and match like the categories of consulting and content retainers and even brand deals together. Like those could potentially all be one at some point, but the standalone of UGC is not necessarily going to be smooth cash flow. These could be one-off deals. Like right now they are. I have 2 retainers that I work on where I deliver assets on a monthly cadence. And that's ideally how I would want to do UGC. But the easiest way for me, and you'll see this is pretty low, it's about $2,000 in Q1. So I'm only looking at like less than $700 a month from UGC, and it only scales to $5,000 a month or $5,000 a quarter by Q4. I'm not looking at this as necessarily like this massive scalable project because I have to use my own time to do that. It's not something where I go to sleep and it makes me money. So if I can turn some of these UGC one-offs into retainers, that's where pressure can start to come off and I can get, once again, those consistent income lines. And this money, it's not glamorous. It's kind of boring. A lot of the deals that I do are non-endemic, but it's still good money. And the 4th line item is merch and gear, so the current supply. Hopefully you guys already know about the current supply. The first drop was the NSFW collection. That's the Not Safe for Work collection, focused on fish more, work less was really the mantra, and that will stay as a mantra for forever of the current supply. But it's not necessarily a cash cow, at least not right now. I'm not putting a lot of effort, a lot of time into it, at least on the design side, the promotion side. I did this as a passion project, as something I've always wanted to do. But right now, it's really about culture, it's about identity, and building brand equity. We have sold over $2,000 worth of apparel and gear from thecurrentsupply.com, but that there's not even close to what I take home. Like nowhere near. Like $1,000 if I sold $2,000 worth of goods, not even close. The margin is nowhere near that. So I am looking to ramp up, but I'm not doing this aggressively. You'll see we'll start at $1,000, and by Q4, so $1,000 in 1 quarter, that's only like $333 a month. It's not unattainable, but by Q4, during the holiday season, I do want to be scaled to about $5,000 in take-home revenue from thecurrentsupply.com. So again, that's another big line item that I'll be putting more effort into, but over time that will scale. That's another one of those build it, create content around it, set it, don't forget it, but it can compound over time. And if merch ever starts costing me more freedom than it gives back from a revenue perspective, that's something that I will analyze likely in Q3. Like, is this more time to create these new collections? Because my plan is to have a new collection every quarter. If it starts to take too much time and not bringing back enough revenue, that's one that I'll have to make a hard decision on. Unfortunately, a hard decision for sure. The next line is affiliate revenue. This is something that I personally have been doing for almost 5 years now. I've had multiple different websites that I've run that are essentially like a mix of like listicle articles and blog posts. So the first one that I created was called currentdigital.com. And that was a place where I was able to blog and tell stories about some of the stuff that I was doing from a fishing, mountain biking, cycling, so on perspective, the outdoors, which I've always been accustomed to being a part of that industry. That was a place where I was able to create this top 5 list of best lures or the best fishing rods or fishing reels, so on and so forth. And I've managed the affiliate marketing side on pretty much every brand that I've worked with in the past 10 years. So I know this space really well, and this is one that could really compound over time when I do put the right time and effort into it. It's not necessarily an exciting or glamorous day-to-day. Like I have to sit in a chair and write an article about what are my favorite fishing reels or what are my favorite fishing sunglasses. But over time, if I continue to build on that channel, whether it be on thecurrentdigital.com or it's on social, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, it's money that stacks up over time. And that's the kind of money that comes in while I'm sleeping. So it comes in from, like I have listed here, it's email and SMS, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's also TikTok, it's the podcast, it is, I don't even have on here my website, but it's also currentdigital.com. And the goal here, it's not fast cash. I'm not planning to make a ton of money off of one post, whether that's on the Current Digital or an Instagram post. The idea here is, again, that compounding revenue that makes money while I sleep. And finally, the last avenue is ad revenue. And this is not necessarily something that I plan to make a ton of money from. I am confident that I will be making ad revenue from YouTube specifically, and possibly some from TikTok on TikTok Live, but it's not something that's going to pay the bills. I am realistic and know that I'm probably not going to become a YouTuber. It's possible. I really enjoy editing. I really enjoy doing tournaments and filming them and talking through the process, and then going back and looking at the content and filming and producing it for you guys. But I don't necessarily see that as the dream, but it's possible. To get $200 in a quarter from ad revenue on YouTube, it's not unrealistic, and that's the Q1 goal. And scaling to $3,000 of ad revenue, that's $1,000 a month in Q4, it's not unrealistic. And to be totally transparent with you, I don't think any of this is unrealistic. This is the stretch goal, 142K by the end of the year, and this is why the plan works, or it doesn't. It's if the most important one, again, I'm putting a lot of my eggs in the consulting basket, $65,000 for 2026 as a whole. If one of these doesn't work, I have to do better in another category. But ideally, with a diversified plan, each of these can scale up or down a little bit. So let's say, again, the consulting doesn't do so good, but brand deals start to come in. Maybe this turns into 50 and this turns into 55. Who knows? That's possible. The part that's uncomfortable is if both of these don't hit their marks, especially in Q1. I've left these pretty low in Q1. You'll see my goal for Q1 as a whole is $23,500, or right around that, $23,450 across 3 months of the first year of 2026. It's not a huge target. But then once we start to get into Q2, like I mentioned, each quarter has a different stage. We're going to start ramping up, and by Q4, we're going to have a $50,000 plus quarter. And nothing's necessarily reliant on virality throughout this whole thing. This is a business plan. This is how a profit sheet would look, not necessarily a loss sheet. This is my income. I want to be making $142,000. There are going to be costs associated with that, whether it be gas or hotels or flights, so on and so forth. There's going to be cost associated with this. So I think 142 is a safe bet that, it's a stretch goal. I think if I hit that number, I will be ecstatic. So as a whole, this is the money side. For some people, maybe this seems totally unbelievable, but I have seen it happen firsthand. Like I mentioned, I've been in this game for 10 years on the brand side. Now the real question is, what happens when this actually starts to work? That's where time, family, and burnout, they come into play. All right, so if you take one thing from this episode, it's this. Consulting is going to be my income floor. I've seen what actually works behind the scenes for brands, for creators, and I've also seen what burns out people on the brand side, people on the creator side. And this plan It's built to avoid just that. Creator and brand consulting, it's a big deal for me because, again, I know what works. I've done this for the past decade, and I'm going to use my skill set and my experience to offer to both the brand side and other creators looking to do something similar to what I'm doing, whether that be at full scale or as a side business. Ideally, on the brand side, I'm only looking for retainers. So at minimum, those will be quarterly deals. A lot of them will start off as tests. I have one that's coming to fruition that will likely be about a 6-week test. And then what we've communicated is a full year plan of consulting on a retainer. And that will be income that I can expect on a monthly cadence, build so that I can have something steady, a floor that puts this plan into action. I also have to have capped hours. That's an important piece of this because you saw 6 line items, and I can't spend all of my time on one or another. So I have to cap my hours, 1 on consulting and 2 across all of the other channels, because I did this because I want to go fishing more often. And I really want to go fishing on the weekdays. I want to be able to spend time with my family on the weekends. I don't want to have to, have my kid out of school and my wife not working on the weekends, but I'm out fishing. That's exactly the opposite of why I started doing this or why I took this leap of faith. So again, I'm not trying to scale this thing to death. I'm trying to make an honest living, and I'm trying to buy time from this consulting piece so that once I do leverage my credibility, my trust on social, whether that be, like I mentioned before, maybe it is becoming a YouTuber, maybe it is becoming a professional tournament angler, but you'll see in that whole breakdown, there are no tournament winnings in there. I am not relying my life on tournaments. It's not an outcome that I have any expectation of doing in 2026. My income floor is about consulting. It's about using the skill set that I have built over the past 10 years. And it's the smartest way for me to do that. And again, each quarter is broken down by how many partners I need to have from the brand side, how many creators I want to be helping. And by the end of February, my very hard goal is to have $4,000 per month of recurring revenue and consulting income. By the month of March, the end of March, that's the end of Q1, my goal is to have $15,000 in pocket from consulting. It might be billed net 30, so I might get paid in April for that month of March or that full retainer, but I need to know that in Q1, I've made $15,000 from consulting. And I'm saying this out loud because saying it quietly and in my head and not to other people, it doesn't work. And this is the part of the plan that has to work really fast for me. I have to lock in these retainers. I have to keep building these relationships. I have to sell the brands on what I can offer to them, because if it doesn't work, as you saw, that's the biggest income driver for me, then none of the rest matters unless for some wild reason one of those platforms or one of those line items scales incredibly more than I would have ever expected. And this next part is where the content, it stops being just a hobby where I'm just going out having fun filming for you guys, and it starts becoming an asset that I can sell to brands and the platforms will start to pay me from. So as I showed you before, these are the different lanes. These are the different quarters. One of the lanes is content tasks. And a big part of that in Q1 is ensuring that not only am I hitting the mark on content series that I already have in play, like Fishing for a Living, the podcast, but also I have multiple other series that are in the works right now. They have pitch decks already built out for them. I have multiple in edit right now that have already been produced, and we'll have some pilot episodes coming out in Q1 that I'll be able to sell to brands as partners. This will be a big shift for 2026 because I can't just continue to go out fishing, film a trip, and go back and put it on YouTube, because as you saw in the ad revenue line item, I am not expecting to be making a boatload of money from ad revenue on YouTube. AdSense, I'm going to be real with you guys. If you think you want to be a YouTuber, you better have a ridiculous format that goes viral every single time. Google AdSense does not pay you that much money. You can make money on YouTube from the platform, but it is incredibly tough, and you have to get hundreds of thousands of views to make money. The RPMs, which are a metric of which you'll get paid on YouTube if you're already monetized, you already know this, but they can range from $2 all the way up to, I've seen $12 to $15, but that's how much an advertiser pays to put their ad within your platform. And it's not a direct buy like, let's say Shimano wanted to work with me. I could put their ad inside of my video manually, but there's also advertisers that can buy ad space on YouTube and say, I want to show my ads on the Currents platform, or I want to show my ads on John B's platform or the Guggen Squad platform, or you name any YouTube channel. They can say, I want to show my content on this specific channel or with this specific audience, whether that be fishermen or cyclists or knitters or bird watchers, so on and so forth. Advertisers can buy that ad space, and that's how you get paid from Google AdSense. They pay you a portion of what the advertiser is paying. And obviously, they're not going to give you all of it, so you only get a small dividend of that. And so with these content tasks, I am making sure that not only on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn, so on and so forth, all of these things are repetitive, they're recurring, and I'm building an asset and content library that I can sell into brands that they want to be a part of what I'm doing, whether it's fishing for a living or a content series that's recurring, or it's being on my Instagram channel on a regular cadence, so on and so forth. They're not just ideas anymore. These become assets that are purchasable or integratable, where brands can integrate themselves into my platform. Inherently, all of these will come with, as I mentioned, a pitch deck, whether it's fishing for a living or a content series. They'll describe essentially what is this content series, who does it target, what does it talk about, how can I integrate your brand into my platform, and I'll be selling that out to brands. I've already started doing that. And a lot of these are very sponsor aligned. I have I don't want to talk too in depth about that, but there's a content series I already have a pilot for. It's called Book That Fishing Trip. And I'll be traveling to different areas around the country where I can go in my truck and take my boat to, I don't know, when I'm living in Virginia, drive to Florida. And along the way, I'm going to be drinking coffee. I'm going to be stopping at gas stations. I'm going to be in my truck. I am going to be getting gas. I need accommodations. I need a place to stay. I need an app to tell me where to go fishing. I need this, that, and the other. You think about it. If I'm using it, there is an available placement for a sponsor for me. So all of those pitch decks and all of those ideas, they are sponsorable and they're integratable. There's a way to get a brand into all of the things that I'm working on. And so what my goal is for 2026 is to be consistent with all of these series, build trust with you guys, build trust with my audience, and then inherently build trust with brands who want to be a part of this community or this platform. And this next part, so we talked about the content piece, ideally with repetition, with these storylines that are repeatable, that have easy integration for brands. It's a great way for me to build up this business, build up the audience, build up credibility, trust with both consumers and brands. This next part, though, it's probably going to surprise you because it's not necessarily where I'm looking to get rich. It is a dream of mine to do this next part. I've already started it, and it's already been a success in my book, but it's not all about money. Maybe someday I'll be able to lock in and only focus on this piece, but this next piece is not just about money. So this next part is about the current supply. as hopefully most of you guys know, and I talked about this earlier, the current supply is my apparel merch gear brand. And this piece is not necessarily the biggest cash cow for me. As you'll see by the end of the year, my in pocket that I'm looking to have is $11,000. That is less than $1,000 a month on average for the whole year. But let me pull back out and show you kind of how I look at product launches. So this will be pretty quick. Because I get a lot of questions about merch. How did you do it? How are you doing it? Do you have any recommendations? I've always wanted to start a merchandise brand or an apparel brand. I've always wanted to make hats, stickers, t-shirts, so on and so forth. What I'm doing right now is called POD. It's print on demand. I can't afford to purchase 100 pieces of apparel, have all of the product in-house, ship it myself, invest all of that time and money into products that could potentially just sit at home with me. So what I'm using is a thing called print on demand. I design the products myself. I am able to choose how that product fits on a asset, whether it's a sweatshirt or a hat like this. I can have it embroidered, or I can have it DTF printed on here. But this is a way that I need zero inventory. And when you purchase something, that product is made because you purchased it. So as much as I'd love to say that these products that I'm selling right now are sitting back here and I hand deliver all of them, it's not in the cards for me right now. It helps me with easy operations once again, so I don't have to have inventory on hand. But there are some downsides to it. I can't have this massive wide selection of the apparel items. I have a select number of SKUs that I can pick through, that I can print on. This hat was one of the ones that I really liked, and thankfully they had it. But I can get this hat printed with just about anything on it. And same thing with hoodies. They have great hoodie selection, but eventually there's a lot to the apparel, a lot more that I want to do with the apparel side that I think hasn't been touched in the fishing industry. And that could happen by the end of 2026, potentially. But right now, print on demand is my choice. The margins aren't great. Like I mentioned, I don't make a ton of money off of this. Income was nowhere near $2,000. That's how much I sold of the merch or the inventory that has gone out the door. But the margins on that are nowhere near that much money. And right now I'm only able to do quarterly drops. You'll see another one in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. But I'm not able to do, one a week or even, less than that, one a month. Like, I can't focus all my time on there. And that's because merch, I don't believe, is going to be paying my bills right now. And that's okay, because what I'm trying to share with other people is culture. It's identity, and it's long-term brand equity for me and for the community and culture that I'm creating around the current. Right now, and probably always will be, fish more, work less is the mantra. Like, that is what I'm selling, is that if you have a dream and your dream is fishing, you should focus on that dream, that passion, because passion drives success from my perspective, and passion drives purpose. And that's really what this mantra is all about. And future drops will always have fish more, work less linked into it. But with that said, if the merch in 2026 breaks me and I start to get too stressed about it, I can't deliver on time from a quarterly perspective, if fulfillment's a pain in the butt, if the POD platform that I start using becomes a pain, if managing the Shopify store and site and the billing and taxes and all that stuff becomes too much for me, it's broken. And unfortunately, this is not something that everyone wants to talk about, but it's the reason most people quit, is because there's too many tasks to do under one thing that they're doing. It is a good bit of work, even though it's print on demand. It could be potentially easier if I just ordered a bunch of stuff, But again, that's where I run into the problem of having all of this inventory and having this money sunk into these things that might not even sell. There's little things that you have to think about, like sizing. I might buy 20 size larges if I was getting my own inventory and 10 size mediums, and the mediums sell out, but the larges just sit. I can't afford to do that right now. So that's a big piece. And this next part is kind of similar. It's another piece that a lot of people they don't want to talk about. It's the reality of running your own business, and there are a lot of not pretty parts to it. So in 2026, it'll be my first year running my own business for an entire year. There's a lot of things that I have to learn. I know that I've been in marketing and helped small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large businesses in the range of $200 million a year all the way down to less than $1 million a year. And right now, for me, there's a lot of things that I don't know about the full business scope or the full way of running one. And one of those are like more of just the reality of it. And that's, how do you do your accounting? How do you have business licenses? How do you do your business setup, taxes, having an accounting system, having a bookkeeping system, all of those things that are not glorious, not glamorous, not things that people want to talk about, but they're reality. Right now, I've set myself up as a DBA. Probably by Q2, once I file my taxes for 2025, I'll be looking at setting myself up as an LLC or an S Corp. And again, I'm just learning as I go. I already have a financial advisor. I am working with a CPA. They're going to help me get really dialed in on this. So hopefully in 2027, either one, I can do it myself, or two, it just becomes super easy and I have all of the systems in place, whether that's, filing all of my receipts for my P&L statements, having a good system for checking in monthly on spend and on income. But I'm learning as I go. And by no means, once again, am I pretending otherwise. Like this is a part of it that I am going to have to learn, and I'm going to have to learn it fast. But it comes with those weekly check-ins and those quarterly check-ins, those monthly check-ins, daily check-ins, really understanding, am I where I need to be and what do I need to change? As an entrepreneur, I think anyone will tell you, you got to be flexible. You got to figure out what's working, what's not working, and dive into what's working. And if it's not, figure out why it wasn't. So that will look like me having weekly check-ins, time caps on certain line items of the business, whether that be how much time I spend on consulting, how much time I spend fishing, how much time I spend, and so on and so forth on the content, everything. And if this will also include a check-in on burnout and a check-in on how many hours total that I'm working, because part of this whole me leaving the 9-to-5, this safe career, was so that I can leave burnout. And I started to feel that in my 9-to-5. And I wanted to rid myself of what was draining me. And if this starts draining me, I got to figure out what I need to do to make it stop, because that's not success if I'm once again burnt out. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. A guy, Lawson Lindsay, on YouTube, the guy was making a full-time living on YouTube, and he just quit. I think it sounded like he lost his passion. He got burnt out from it. He felt a lot of pressure from it. And I want to set this business up so that that doesn't happen to me, because this has been a lifelong dream, and I don't want to hit a reality that maybe it was a joke. Maybe this wasn't right for me. So that's a big piece of the puzzle that I have got to figure out, is just running a business day to day, month to month, quarter to quarter, and year to year, so that not only do I not burn out, but this thing turns into a profitable business and a successful business that can eventually give me more hours to do what I love, and that's fishing, spending time with my family, doing the things that I want to do. And with all that said, here's that one thing that I mentioned in the beginning. Still don't think I have figured out. I'm not sharing this because I've got it all figured out. I'm sharing it because I know a lot of y'all are probably right where I was a year ago. I love fishing. I want more time, and I don't want to make any reckless decisions while doing it. The part that I'm still unsure about, it isn't the content, it's not the brands, it's about protecting my time, especially if this thing, it starts to work. And this is me betting it all on myself with a plan. I'll keep fishing, I'll keep working, and I'll keep showing you what's happening, not just the highlight reels. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. And if you're building something of your own, man, I'm rooting for you to win this year. 2026 is going to be the best year yet, and it's probably going to be because you bet it all on yourself and you had a plan.